Being a hero required more than just brute force. It demanded intelligence, perseverance, and adaptability. Face your fears, confront your weaknesses. Every difficult task, no matter how insurmountable it seems, is an opportunity for growth. Seek redemption through action. What are the labors in your own life that you must face? What's up? Today we're diving deep into one of the most legendary stories in history, and one of my personal favorites. It'll be Hercules and his 12 labors. But here's the twist. After I tell you the myths and the stories, we'll explore how it connects through three powerful lenses: Christianity, Buddhism, and psychology. If you have an interest in any of those things, stay tuned. I'm actually really excited about this video. But alright, let's get into it. The epic trials of Hercules. A mortal who defies gods, battles monsters, and redefines what it means to be a hero. His journey holds profound lessons in resilience, courage, and the pursuit of redemption. Hercules, the 12 labors, and the path to redemption. The shadows of Mount Olympus grow longer, and the gods, though victorious over the Titans, wrestle with their own flaws and rivalries. Amid their divine intrigues, one mortal rises to challenge their dominion, not through rebellion, but through relentless perseverance and redemption. His name is Heracles, or Hercules as the Romans would call it, a demigod whose trials reveal the strength of the human spirit and the transformative power of suffering. In this part, we'll explore Hercules' 12 labors, a story steeped in Greek mythology, but resonant with the themes of sin, redemption, and enlightenment found in Christianity and Buddhism. We'll uncover how this journey mirrors our psychological battles and offers a powerful framework for building resilience, discipline, and purpose. Hercules, the son of Zeus and the mortal Alcmene, was born with extraordinary strength, but plagued by divine antagonism. Hera, Zeus's wife, despised Hercules, a living reminder of Zeus's infidelity. In a fit of divine-induced madness, Hercules committed a heinous act. He killed his wife Megara and their children. Overwhelmed by guilt, Hercules sought redemption. The Oracle of Delphi instructed him to serve King Eurystheus and complete 12 seemingly impossible labors as penance. Each labor tested Hercules' strength, wit, and willpower. His first labor was slaying the Nemean Lion. Deep within the wild hills of Nemea, a fearsome lion terrorized the land. No weapon could pierce its golden fur, and its claws could shred through armor like parchment. Villagers lived in constant fear, for anyone who wandered too far from home never returned. Hercules, burdened by his sins but determined to redeem himself, set out on this dangerous quest. As he approached the rocky hills, he found signs of the beast's presence. Huge paw prints embedded in the earth and half-eaten carcasses strewn about. The air smelled of death. Determined to confront the beast, Hercules entered a dark cave. He had heard that the lion's den had 2 entrances, so he blocked one exit with a boulder to trap the creature inside. As his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he spotted the lion lying on a ledge, its golden fur gleaming like sunlight on polished metal. With a roar, the lion leapt at Hercules. He raised his bow and fired an arrow. But the shaft snapped harmlessly against the creature's hide. Hercules tried again using his spears, but the weapons shattered upon impact. Realizing brute strength alone would not be enough, he dropped his weapons and prepared to face the lion with nothing but his hands. The lion lunged again, its jaws snapping inches from Hercules' face. With unmatched speed and strength, Hercules dodged and wrapped his arms around the beast's neck. The lion thrashed and clawed, but Hercules held on, tightening his grip. Muscles straining, he forced the air from the lion's lungs. At last, it lay still. Victorious but bloodied, Hercules examined the lifeless lion. He knew he needed proof of this success, so he attempted to skin the beast, but his knife was useless against the impenetrable pelt. Frustrated, he pondered his options. Then, inspired by the creature's own savage nature, he used the lion's claws to cut through the hide. He returned to King Eurystheus wearing the lion's pelt as a cloak. The head rested atop his own like a helmet. When Eurystheus saw Hercules in the terrifying garb, he was so frightened that he forbade the hero from entering the city again. From then on, Eurystheus ordered Hercules to report his successes from outside the city wall. Thus ended the first labor. But it was only the beginning of Hercules' long and grueling path to redemption. Labor 2, slay the Lernaean Hydra. The swamps of Lerna were a place of dread. Dark, reeking waters stretched as far as the eye could see, and thick mists curled ominously around gnarled trees. It was here that the Lernaean Hydra, a monstrous serpent with 9 heads, made its lair. The creature terrorized the region, emerging from the depths to devour livestock and any unfortunate souls who wandered too close. Worse still, legend claimed that if one of the Hydra's heads was severed, 2 more would grow in its place. King Eurystheus hoped that this impossible task would end Hercules' quest for redemption. Undeterred, Hercules set off, accompanied by his loyal nephew Iolaus. As they approached the swamp, the air grew thick and foul, choking their lungs. The ground beneath their feet turned to black mud, making each step slow and laborious. Hercules scanned the murky waters, knowing that the Hydra would not be easy to find or defeat. Suddenly, a ripple disturbed the still surface of the swamp. Moments later, the Hydra emerged, its massive serpentine body glistening in the dim light. 9 heads writhed and hissed, each with fangs dripping venom. The central head, larger than the rest, gleamed with a sinister intelligence. Without hesitation, Hercules charged. Swinging his mighty club, he smashed one of the Hydra's heads clean off. But as the stories foretold, 2 new heads sprouted in its place, each hissing more fiercely than before. Hercules fought on, striking down head after head, only for more to grow. It seemed as though the beast could not be defeated. Venomous fumes filled the air, and Hercules began to feel dizzy. Realizing he needed a new strategy, he called out to Iolaus. "Bring fire," Hercules shouted. Iolaus, quick-witted and resourceful, grabbed a burning torch from their campfire. As Hercules severed another head, Iolaus pressed a blazing torch on the stump, cauterizing the wound. This time, no new heads grew. Together they repeated the process. Hercules severed the heads, and Iolaus sealed the necks with fire. The Hydra thrashed in agony, its monstrous form writhing through the swamp. But the 2 heroes pressed on relentlessly. At last, only the central head remained, the one said to be immortal. Hercules seized the Hydra's central neck in a crushing grip. With all his strength, he tore the head from the creature's body. He then buried the head deep beneath a massive boulder, ensuring that it could never rise again. Before leaving, Hercules noticed the Hydra's blood pooling around its body. He knew the blood was a deadly poison, so he dipped the tips of his arrows in it. These arrows would later prove invaluable in many of his future battles. When Hercules returned to Eurystheus and recounted his triumph, the king was stunned. However, Hera, ever determined to thwart Hercules, whispered to Eurystheus that he should not count this labor. Since Hercules had received help from Iolaus, the task, she claimed, was incomplete. Though angry at the unjust ruling, Hercules pressed on, knowing that more labors awaited him. The Hydra was defeated, but his path to redemption was far from over. Labor 3, capture the Ceryneian Hind. After facing the ferocious Nemean Lion and the deadly Hydra, Hercules was given a seemingly gentler task, one that appeared more peaceful but was far trickier than it seemed. King Eurystheus ordered him to capture the Ceryneian Hind, a magnificent golden-horned deer sacred to the goddess Artemis. Unlike his previous labors, this one required Hercules to show restraint, for if he harmed the creature, he would risk incurring the wrath of Artemis herself. The Ceryneian Hind was said to be swift beyond measure, capable of outrunning even an arrow in flight. It lived deep in the forest of Arcadia, where it roamed freely and was rarely seen by mortals. Capturing it alive without causing harm was a task many believed impossible. Hercules journeyed to Arcadia, where ancient forests stretched endlessly over hills and valleys. Days turned into weeks as he searched for the elusive creature. He followed hoofprints, caught glimpses of golden antlers glinting in the sunlight, but the hind was always too quick, vanishing before he could get close. Determined not to give up, Hercules continued his pursuit tirelessly. He tracked the hind across rivers, through dense woods, and up rocky hillsides. He remained patient, knowing that brute force would not help him here. Only endurance and cleverness would lead to victory. At dawn, on the first day of the 4th month in the forest, Hercules finally saw his chance. The hind had stopped by a stream to drink. Hercules moved silently, his steps careful and measured. He knew he could not risk injuring the sacred animal. With unmatched precision, he crept closer, holding his breath. Just as he was within reach, the hind sensed his presence and bolted. But Hercules, quick as lightning, lunged forward and caught the creature by its antlers. The hind thrashed wildly, but Hercules held firm, using all his strength to prevent it from escaping without causing harm. As Hercules restrained the hind, a brilliant light enveloped the forest. From the glow emerged Artemis, radiant and imposing, accompanied by her twin brother Apollo. Her eyes blazed with anger as she saw Hercules holding her sacred animal. "Mortal, what gives you the right to lay hands on my hind?" Artemis demanded, her voice echoing through the trees. Hercules bowed respectfully, careful not to show any defiance. "Great goddess, I mean no harm. I was commanded by King Eurystheus to capture this hind. I wish only to complete my task, and I will return it to you unharmed." Artemis regarded him for a long moment, her expression softening slightly. She knew of his labors and the unjust penance he had been forced to endure. Apollo, ever the voice of reason, spoke next. "Sister, he speaks the truth. Let him complete this task, for he has shown respect to your sacred creature." Reluctantly, Artemis agreed. "Very well, Hercules, but remember your promise. Once you have shown the hind to Eurystheus, you must release it back to the wild unharmed." Hercules swore by the river Styx, the most solemn of oaths, that he would do as she commanded. Carrying the Ceryneian hind on his shoulders, Hercules made his way back to Tiryns. When he arrived, Eurystheus was amazed at the sight of the golden horned deer. He ordered Hercules to hand it over, intending to keep the sacred creature as a prize. But Hercules, bound by his oath, had other plans. As soon as Eurystheus approached, Hercules loosened his grip, allowing the hind to escape. The creature bolted back towards the forest, too swift for anyone to catch. Furious, Eurystheus berated Hercules. But there was nothing he could do. Hercules had completed the task exactly as ordered. Thus, the 3rd labor was finished, and Hercules continued his path towards redemption, knowing that the next task would be even more daunting. Labor 4 captured the Erymanthian boar. In the mountains of Erymanthos, a monstrous boar wreaked havoc. It trampled fields, destroyed villages, and gored any hunters brave enough to pursue it. This wasn't any ordinary wild boar. Its size was colossal, its tusks razor-sharp, and its rage unmatched. King Eurystheus, hoping to see Hercules humiliated or killed, ordered him to capture the beast alive. Undaunted, Hercules set out for Mount Erymanthos, prepared to face whatever lay ahead. On his journey, Hercules stopped to visit an old friend, the wise centaur Pholus. Pholus lived in a cave near the mountain and welcomed Hercules warmly. He offered Hercules roasted meat, though he himself only ate raw food, as was the custom of centaurs. As they dined, Hercules noticed a large jug of wine, sealed for many years. Pholus explained that the wine belonged to all the centaurs and had been left untouched for fear of causing conflict. But Hercules, thirsty from his long journey, insisted on opening it. As the aroma of wine spread, nearby centaurs caught the scent and were enraged. They stormed towards the cave, armed with rocks and tree branches. A fierce battle ensued. Hercules fought them off, using his strength and poison arrows dipped in Hydra's blood. Many centaurs fled, while others fell in the fight. During the chaos, Pholus accidentally dropped one of Hercules' poisoned arrows on his foot and tragically died from the venom. Saddened by his friend's death, Hercules buried Pholus before continuing his mission. Climbing higher into the cold, snow-covered peaks of Mount Erymanthos, Hercules finally heard the terrifying snorts and grunts of the Erymanthian boar. Following the sound, he soon spotted the massive creature rooting through the frozen earth, its breath steaming in the icy air. The boar, sensing Hercules' approach, charged with incredible speed and tusks aimed directly at him. Rather than confront the beast head-on, Hercules used his wits. He lured the boar toward a narrow gorge where deep snow had accumulated. As the boar pursued him, it got stuck in the thick snow, unable to move. Hercules quickly leapt onto his back and wrestled it into submission, and tied it securely with heavy chains. Hercules carried the bound boar back to Tiryns. When he reached the city, Eurystheus was so terrified at the sight of the giant, snorting beast that he fled and hid inside a large bronze jar he had ordered made specifically to protect himself from Hercules. This act of cowardice became a famous tale, further adding to Hercules' growing legend. After presenting the boar, Hercules released it back to the wild, as Eurystheus had no desire to keep the ferocious creature anywhere near his kingdom. Thus, Hercules completed his fourth labor and prepared for the next, knowing the trials would only grow more difficult. Labor 5. Clean the Augean stables. For his fifth labor, Eurystheus gave Hercules a task that seemed beneath a hero's dignity. But in truth, it was designed to be both humiliating and impossible. He ordered Hercules to clean the stables of King Aegeus of Elis. These were no ordinary stables. Aegeus was one of the wealthiest kings in Greece and owned a vast herd of cattle, sheep, goats, and horses. His animals numbered in the thousands, and their stables hadn't been cleaned in years. The sheer volume of the filth was overwhelming, and it was believed that even a lifetime wouldn't be enough to clean them. But as always, Hercules was determined to succeed. Hercules approached King Aegeus with a clever proposal. Without mentioning that he was performing the task as a part of his labors, he offered to clean the stables in a single day in exchange for 1/10 of Aegeus's livestock. Amused by the absurdity of the offer and certain Hercules would fail, Aegeus agreed, thinking he had nothing to lose. Rather than using traditional methods, Hercules devised a brilliant strategy. Nearby flowed two mighty rivers, the Alpheus and the Peneus. Hercules realized that if he could divert the rivers through the stable, the rushing water would carry away years of accumulated filth in hours. Using his incredible strength, Hercules dug channels from the rivers to the stables. Once the channels were complete, he broke down part of the stable walls, allowing the rivers to flood through. The powerful currents washed the stables clean in a matter of moments, leaving them spotless. When Aegeus saw that the impossible task had been completed, he was furious. He refused to honor the agreement, claiming Hercules had cheated by using the rivers. To make matters worse, he denied that he had ever promised Hercules any reward and even banished him from his kingdom. Angered by this betrayal, Hercules gathered witnesses who had heard Aegeus's original promise and prepared to take the matter to court. Before the case could be judged, however, Eurystheus intervened. He declared that the labor didn't count because Hercules had tried to earn a reward for it, which went against the spirit of the labors. Despite the injustice, Hercules moved on to his next task. This labor demonstrated not only Hercules' immense strength, but also his cleverness and ability to solve problems through unconventional means. Though Eurystheus refused to count it, the tale of Hercules cleaning the Augean stables in a single day became legendary throughout Greece. Labor 6. Drive away the Stymphalian birds. For his sixth labor, King Eurystheus tasked Hercules with driving away the Stymphalian birds, a deadly flock of man-eating creatures that plagued the marshes near Lake Stymphalis in Arcadia. These monstrous birds were sacred to Ares, the god of war, and were said to have metallic beaks and claws sharp enough to pierce armor. They terrorized the countryside, attacking crops, livestock, and even humans. Unlike Hercules' earlier tasks, which relied mostly on brute strength, This labor required cleverness and ingenuity. Hercules set out for Arcadia, where the dense marshlands made it difficult to move or track the birds. The thick vegetation and boggy ground provided the perfect hiding place for the flock. Each time he drew near, the birds would take to the sky, vanishing beyond reach. Hercules realized that if he didn't find a way to force the birds into the open, he would never be able to complete the task. While contemplating how to approach the problem, Hercules was visited by the goddess Athena. She offered him a special tool, a pair of bronze castanets, forged by the craftsman god Hephaestus. Athena instructed Hercules to use the clappers to create a loud, terrifying noise that would startle the birds and drive them out of hiding. Following Athena's advice, Hercules climbed a hill overlooking the marsh. He banged the bronze castanets together, producing a deafening sound that echoed across the swamp. The noise frightened the Stymphalian birds, and they took flight in a great screeching mass. As they soared into the sky, Hercules drew his bow and began shooting them down with his arrows, which were tipped with the poisonous blood of the Hydra. Many birds fell from the sky, while the surviving ones fled far away, never to return. By ridding the region of these deadly creatures, Hercules saved the people of Arcadia and completed his sixth labor. Hercules returned to Eurystheus, who once again was dismayed that the hero had succeeded. Nevertheless, he had no choice but to acknowledge the completion of the sixth labor. This labor highlighted Hercules' resourcefulness and ability to adapt to different challenges. While earlier tasks had tested his physical strength, this one showed that he could think creatively and use divine assistance when necessary. For his seventh labor, King Eurystheus commanded Hercules to capture the Cretan bull, a powerful and dangerous creature that was laying waste to the island of Crete. This was no ordinary bull. It was said to have been sent by Poseidon, god of the sea, and was tied to the legend of King Minos and the Minotaur. King Minos of Crete had once prayed to Poseidon for a sign of his divine favor. In response, Poseidon sent a magnificent snow-white bull from the sea. The bull was meant to be sacrificed to the god, but Minos, awed by the creature's beauty, decided to keep it for himself, and sacrificed a lesser bull instead. Angered by disobedience, Poseidon cursed the bull, causing it to go mad and wreak havoc across the island. To make matters worse, this bull was also father of the Minotaur, a half-man, half-bull monster born as punishment for Minos' deceit. Hercules sailed to Crete and met King Minos, who was more than willing to let the hero rid his kingdom of the cursed creature. Minos admired Hercules' reputation and hoped he could succeed where others had failed. Hercules set out to find the bull, which was known to roam the countryside, destroying fields and villages in its frenzy. Tracking the beast, Hercules found it near the slopes of Mount Ida. The bull was enormous, with gleaming white fur and fiery red eyes. When it saw Hercules, it charged with incredible speed and strength. Hercules, however, was steady. He sidestepped the charging bull at the last moment and grabbed it by its horns. A fierce struggle ensued, but Hercules, using his immense strength, wrestled the bull to the ground. Once it was subdued, he tied it up and led it back to the ship. Unlike some of his previous labors, he didn't need to kill the bull. His task was simply to capture it alive. Hercules brought the captured Cretan bull back to King Eurystheus. As was becoming his habit, Eurystheus was terrified by the sight of the wild creature. He ordered Hercules to release the bull, wanting nothing to do with it. Once free, the bull wandered north and eventually reached the plains of Marathon in Greece, where it would become known as the Marathonian bull, later killed by the hero Theseus. Although the task seemed straightforward compared to others, it marked a turning point in Hercules' labors. As it began involving creatures and myths tied to different parts of the Greek world, Hercules' fame grew, and people across Greece spoke of his strength and courage. With the seventh labor complete, Hercules prepared for the next challenge. Labor 8, capture the mares of Diomedes. For his eighth labor, Eurystheus commanded Hercules to capture the mares of Diomedes, a fearsome herd of man-eating horses belonging to King Diomedes of Thrace. Unlike ordinary horses, These mares were savage, uncontrollable, and fed on human flesh. Capturing and taming them would require not just strength, but also strategy. Diomedes, a son of Ares, was the brutal king of the Bistones, a Thracian tribe known for their warlike nature. He kept the mares chained in iron mangers and fed them with the flesh of his enemies and unfortunate travelers who wandered into his kingdom. The mares were so ferocious that even the feared them, and they were guarded at all times by Diomedes' soldiers. When Hercules reached Thrace, he knew that capturing the mares by force would be dangerous without first dealing with their master. So he devised a plan. Under cover of night, he and his companions managed to infiltrate Diomedes' stables and free the horses. However, before they could escape, Diomedes and his soldiers gave chase. Realizing he couldn't outrun the Thracian warriors while keeping the wild mares under control, Hercules turned to face Diomedes. Using his immense strength and skill, he quickly overpowered the king in battle. Some versions of the myth say that Hercules killed Diomedes in combat, while others claim he fed Diomedes to his own mares, which calmed the beasts after tasting their master's flesh. With Diomedes dead and his soldiers scattered, Hercules was able to subdue the now docile mares. Hercules led the mares back to Eurystheus, who was again both impressed and terrified by the hero's success. In some versions of the story, Eurystheus sacrificed the mares to Hera, hoping to appease the goddess who despised Hercules. Other versions say that the mares were released and eventually wandered off to Mount Olympus, where they were devoured by wild animals. The capture of the mares of Diomedes highlighted Hercules' tactical prowess and leadership. It wasn't just brute strength that ensured his victory, it was his ability to adapt, plan, and overcome unexpected challenges. With this labor completed, Hercules prepared for an even greater challenge. Labor 9, obtain the girdle of Hippolyta. For his 9th labor, King Eurystheus tasked Hercules with obtaining the girdle of Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. This golden girdle was no ordinary belt. It was a symbol of her authority and a gift from Ares, the god of war. Eurystheus wanted the girdle as a present for his daughter Admete. To succeed, Hercules would have to confront the fierce Amazons, a race of warrior women known for their strength and skill in battle. The Amazons were a tribe of warrior women who lived near the Black Sea. Their society was matriarchal, and they were known for their ferocity in battle. Hippolyta was their queen, and she was both a great leader and a formidable warrior herself. Her girdle, bestowed by Ares, symbolized her power and authority over her people. Unlike some of Hercules' earlier labors, this task involved diplomacy as well as strength. The challenge was not just to take the girdle, but to do so without provoking a war. Hercules set sail with a group of companions, including his close friend Lawless, to the land of the Amazons. Upon arriving, Hercules requested an audience with Hippolyta. Surprisingly, she welcomed him and listened to his request, respecting his reputation and impressed by his courage. Hippolyta was willing to give him the girdle without a fight. As Hercules and Hippolyta were peacefully negotiating, Hera, ever the enemy of Hercules, could not allow things to go smoothly. Disguising herself as an Amazon warrior, Hera spread rumors among the Amazons that Hercules had come to kidnap their queen. The Amazons, believing Hippolyta was in danger, armed themselves and surrounded Hercules and his companions. Caught off guard, Hercules had no choice but to fight. A fierce battle broke out between Hercules' men and the Amazons. Despite their skill and numbers, the Amazons were no match for Hercules' strength and prowess in combat. During the chaos, Hippolyta was either killed or captured by Hercules, who then took the girdle from her. With the girdle in hand, Hercules and his men quickly sailed back to Mycenae before any more Amazons could retaliate. Upon his return, Eurystheus presented the girdle to his daughter, marking the completion of the 9th labor. This labor illustrated the recurring theme in Hercules' story. Whenever diplomacy and peace seemed possible, Hera would interfere, forcing Hercules into violent confrontation. The labor also expanded Hercules' legend, showing his ability to deal with challenges not just within Greece, but in distant lands. With the girdle obtained, Hercules was ready to face his next task. Labor 10. Capture the cattle of Geryon. For the 10th labor, Eurystheus commanded Hercules to bring back the cattle of Geryon, a monstrous herdsman who lived on the island of Erythea, far to the west. Geryon's cattle were famous for their red hides, and they were guarded by both a two-headed dog and Geryon himself, a fearsome giant with 3 bodies and 3 heads. This labor would test Hercules not only with combat, but also with a perilous journey across distant lands and unknown seas. To reach Erythea, Hercules had to travel to the edge of the known world. He made his way through Africa, and during this arduous journey, he faced extreme heat and exhaustion. Overcome by the scorching sun, he grew angry and fired an arrow at the sun god, Helios. Impressed by Hercules' boldness, Helios did not retaliate. Instead, he gave Hercules a golden cup in which to sail across the ocean to reach the island. Upon arriving to Erythea, Hercules first encountered Orthus, a two-headed guard dog. Orthus was the offspring of the fearsome monsters Echidna and Typhon, and it was said just as ferocious as its brother Cerberus. However, Hercules quickly dispatched the beast with his club, killing it with a single blow. After defeating Orthus, Hercules came face to face with Geryon. The giant was a truly fearsome foe, with 3 conjoined bodies, 6 arms, and 3 heads. Armed with a huge shield and 3 swords, Geryon rushed at Hercules. Despite Geryon's overwhelming size and strength, Hercules relied on his superior skill and agility. Using his mighty bow, he shot a single arrow, dipped in the venom of the Hydra, which pierced through all 3 of Geryon's bodies, killing him instantly. With Geryon dead, Hercules gathered the cattle and began the long journey back to Mycenae. The return trip was fraught with difficulties. Along the way, he encountered hostile tribes who tried to steal the cattle, but he defeated them all. At one point, Hera sent a gadfly to scatter the herd. It took Hercules a great deal of time and effort to round up the cattle again. In another version of the myth, he had to pass through Italy, where he fought and killed the fire-breathing giant Cassus, who had stolen some of the cattle and hidden them in a cave. After many trials, Hercules finally brought the cattle to Eurystheus. Once again, Eurystheus was astonished at Hercules' success. He sacrificed the cattle to Hera in an attempt to honor the goddess who despised Hercules. The capture of the cattle of Geryon marked one of Hercules' most challenging labors, as it required not just strength, but incredible endurance and perseverance across a long and hazardous journey. It also symbolized Hercules venturing beyond the known world, highlighting his role as a hero who transcended mortal limits. With this labor completed, only 2 remained. Next, Eurystheus would send him on an even deadlier quest. Labor 11, steal the apples of Hesperides. For his 11th labor, Eurystheus ordered Hercules to bring him the golden apples of the Hesperides. These apples were no ordinary fruit. They were a wedding gift from Gaia, the earth, to Zeus and Hera, and were said to grant immortality. The apples grew on a tree in a garden tended by the Hesperides, nymphs who were daughters of Atlas and were guarded by the fearsome, ever-watchful dragon Ladon. Unlike Hercules' previous labors, this task was shrouded in mystery. Hercules did not know the exact location of the garden, so he first had to find it. Hercules traveled far and wide in search of the garden of the Hesperides. He consulted various figures along the way. 1. The sea god Nereus. Hercules captured the shape-shifting sea god Nereus, who was known for his wisdom, and after wrestling Nereus into submission, Hercules forced him to reveal the location of the garden. And another was Prometheus. In some versions of the myth, Hercules also encountered the Titan Prometheus, who was bound to a rock as punishment for giving fire to humans. Moved by Prometheus' suffering, Hercules killed the giant eagle that tormented him daily and freed him from the chains. In gratitude, Prometheus advised Hercules to seek help from Atlas, who knew the way to the garden. Atlas was a Titan condemned to hold up the sky for eternity. When Hercules arrived, he explained that he needed the golden apples. Atlas, seeing an opportunity to temporarily free himself of his burden, agreed to help on one condition. Hercules would hold up the sky in his place while he went to fetch the apples. Hercules agreed and took on the immense weight of the heavens. True to his word, Atlas went to the garden, easily bypassing Ladon. Some versions say he tricked the dragon while others say he slew it, and returned with the golden apples. However, Atlas, enjoying his newfound freedom, offered to deliver the apples to Eurystheus himself, intending to leave Hercules holding the sky forever. Realizing Atlas's plan, Hercules used his cunning. He pretended to agree but asked Atlas if he could take back the sky momentarily so that Hercules could adjust his cloak to cushion his shoulders. Atlas, not suspecting the trick, took back the burden. As soon as Atlas was holding the sky again, Hercules grabbed the apples and left, leaving the Titan to his eternal task. Hercules brought the golden apples back to Eurystheus, completing his penultimate labor. However, since the apples were sacred to the gods, Eurystheus could not keep them. Athena intervened and returned the apples to the garden of Hesperides. This labor highlighted not just Hercules' incredible strength, but also his cleverness. He proved that being a hero required more than just brute force. It demanded intelligence, perseverance, and adaptability. With this task complete, only one final labor remained. Labor 12, capture Cerberus, the guard dog of the underworld. The 12th and final labor set by King Eurystheus was the most dangerous of all. Hercules had to descend into the underworld and bring back Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog of Hades. This task was not only perilous because of its ferocity, but also because it required Hercules to venture into the realm of the dead, a place from which few ever returned. Eurystheus believed this labor would surely lead Hercules to doom. However, as always, Hercules accepted the challenge. Before attempting to enter the underworld, Hercules sought advice from the gods. Hermes, the messenger of the gods, and Athena, the goddess of wisdom, agreed to guide and protect him on his journey. Hercules made his way to the cave that led to the entrance of the underworld. Upon arriving, he encountered the souls of the dead, shades of those who had passed. Many were terrified of him, for he was a living mortal in the realm of the dead, radiating strength and life. Hercules approached Hades, the god of the underworld, and respectfully requested permission to take Cerberus to the surface. Hades agreed, but on one condition. Hercules had to subdue Cerberus without using any weapons. He could only rely on his immense strength. Cerberus was no ordinary dog. He had 3 heads, a serpent for a tail, and a mane of writhing snakes. He was a monstrous guardian who prevented the souls of the dead from escaping and deterred the living from entering. When Hercules confronted Cerberus, the beast lunged at him with all 3 heads, snarling and snapping. Undaunted, Hercules used his incredible strength to wrestle the beast. He wrapped his powerful arms around Cerberus, and despite being bitten and whipped by the serpent tail, managed to pin the creature down. After a long and fierce struggle, Cerberus submitted to Hercules' strength. With Cerberus subdued, Hercules dragged the monstrous dog back to the surface. He presented Cerberus to Eurystheus, who was so terrified at the sight of the beast that he hid inside a large jar, refusing to come out until Hercules took Cerberus away. After showing Cerberus to Eurystheus, Hercules returned the beast to the underworld, fulfilling Hades' condition. With this final labor complete, Hercules' service to Eurystheus was over. He had not only accomplished the impossible 12 tasks, but had also redeemed himself for the crime of killing his family, as demanded by the Oracle of Delphi. Having completed all 12 labors, Hercules became one of the greatest heroes in Greek mythology. His deeds earned him eternal fame and eventually immortality. Later, he was welcomed onto Mount Olympus as a god. Through these labors, Hercules not only redeemed himself, but also demonstrated the indomitable power of human resilience and the ability to transform suffering into strength. In Christian theology, humanity's spiritual journey is marked by sin, repentance, and redemption. Hercules' 12 labors reflect this path, showing a hero burdened by guilt who seeks forgiveness through immense trials. Hercules begins his journey as a flawed being, haunted by rage and the guilt for killing his family under Hera's influence. Similarly, in Christianity, humans struggle with the burden of sin. Hercules' labors serve as an act of repentance, echoing the Christian idea that redemption is possible through humility, perseverance, and good works. Cleaning the Augean stables parallels the Christian act of cleansing sin and the soul. It reminds us that spiritual purification often involves confronting the dirtiest, most neglected parts of ourselves. Facing Cerberus in the underworld symbolizes facing death itself, a key Christian theme where through faith and grace, life is found even in the shadow of death. In Hercules' journey, we see the dual role of divine grace represented by the gods who assisted him and human effort. While divine aid is necessary, it is Hercules' willingness to act that leads to his redemption. His labors teach that while grace may be freely given, we must still take responsibility for our actions and seek transformation. My takeaway from the comparison of Hercules' story and Christianity is to embrace humility, seek forgiveness, and act with perseverance in the face of life's moral and spiritual challenges. In Buddhism, life is marked by suffering, and the path to enlightenment involves overcoming attachment and desires. Hercules' 12 labors can be viewed as symbolic trials along the path to liberation. Like the Noble Eightfold Path, each labor represents a practice in mindfulness, effort, and ethical action. Capturing the Nemean Lion, a seemingly invincible beast, symbolizes confronting the ego, recognizing that clinging to an inflated sense of self leads to suffering. Hercules can only defeat the lion by using his bare hands, emphasizing the importance of personal effort over external tools. Battling the Lernaean Hydra, with its endless regenerating heads, represents overcoming desires and distractions, which, like the Hydra, seem to multiply when ignored. The labor teaches that lasting peace comes not from avoiding problems, but from addressing them at their root. Retrieving the apples of Hesperides mirrors the search for enlightenment, where the journey itself teaches balance and wisdom, much like the middle way in Buddhism. Hercules' willingness to face his past mistakes and endure suffering mirrors the Buddhist practice of self-awareness and meditation. By facing his labors mindfully, he ultimately transcends his human flaws. My takeaway from Buddhism and Hercules' story is be mindful of your struggles. Life's trials are opportunities for growth when approached with wisdom and detachment. Seek balance and clarity on your path. From a psychological perspective, Hercules' 12 labors perfectly embody Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, a narrative framework describing the universal path of personal transformation. Each labor represents a stage in Hercules' internal struggle to reconcile his divine nature with his human flaws. The Nemean Lion symbolizes fear and invulnerability, an inner beast that must be confronted and tamed without outside help. Psychologically, it's the moment we confront our deepest fears and realize that strength comes within. Cleaning the Augean stables can be seen as emotional and psychological cleansing. Just as Hercules clears years of filth in a single day, we must often confront and process years of accumulated emotional baggage to find clarity and peace. Capturing Cerberus, the monstrous guard dog of the underworld, represents confronting the shadow self, the darker repressed aspects of our psyche. By descending into the underworld and returning with Cerberus, Hercules achieves wholeness, integrating his shadow and emerging transformed. Hercules' journey teaches us that true growth comes from facing our inner demons. Each labor challenges him to confront a different part of himself, transforming suffering into wisdom and fear into courage. Your struggles are a part of your personal transformation. Face your fears, confront your weaknesses, and integrate all parts of yourself to become whole. Hercules' 12 labors serve as a timeless reminder that redemption, growth, and personal transformation are possible, no matter how great the burden or how daunting the challenge. Face your challenges. Like Hercules, confront your trials head-on. Every difficult task, no matter how insurmountable it seems, is an opportunity for growth. Seek redemption through action. Don't be paralyzed by your mistakes. Take proactive steps towards improvement and healing. Redemption is not achieved by words alone, but by courageous deeds. Transform suffering into strength. Use adversity as a catalyst for personal growth. Every labor Hercules undertakes strengthens his character and brings him closer to his ultimate goal. Balance strength with wisdom. Hercules learns that brute force is not always the answer. Approach your challenges with wisdom, mindfulness, and intention, and leave a legacy. Hercules' story endures because his perseverance and transformation. Ask yourself, what legacy will your actions leave behind? Here's some reflection questions I have for you. What are the labors in your own life that you must face? How can you transform your suffering into strength and wisdom? What actions can you take today to move closer towards your goals? And how can you cultivate balance between strength, wisdom, and compassion in your journey? All right, so that's the full story of Hercules' 12 labors. I really appreciate you guys sticking it out with me and listening to that. I gave you my correlations from Christianity, Buddhism, and psychology so that I could kind of tie it together. But if you like that video and you like these longer videos, make sure you hit the like button. Comment down below which labor is your favorite and which one inspires you the most. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you guys, and I'll keep coming with more long-form content. Peace.